It's Cassia Streb. I have another artist chat for you today. We're going to be speaking with Miyo Stevens-Gandara, and I'll invite her to join me to chat about her visual art practice. She works across a series of different media, and so we'll get a chance to speak with her and talk to her about her postcard that is out this cycle with Music for Your Inbox's offering for our library series, and then also for our people who receive mail at home. The name of this work is Grandma's Basement #2. So let me just take a moment and invite her to join me. Hi, Leo.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, yeah, sure, no problem.
And from your art studio, your background is about a million times more interesting than mine.
Yeah, I thought it
um,
would be a good setting.
Absolutely. And I'm very nosy. So you can tell me to stop, but I'm going to want to know what everything is back there. I was telling folks that this month in fact, last month as well, this cycle, we're featuring one of your photographs as part of our mail art program. So currently it's being mailed to people's homes, and then in a few months it'll flip into our library cycle. So it'll be available for free at actually 8 branches of LA County Public Libraries. So throughout Pasadena, Altadena, and Los Angeles. So this image, of course, is Grandma's Basement #2. I know behind you, I'm looking at a lot of visual art stuff for painting and everything, but this, of course, is a photograph. Could we talk a little bit about your photography practice first, just to kind of frame where people might find this kind of work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started out as a printmaker for my undergraduate work, and then in the middle of that, I changed to photography. Um, I was being taught by a photographer named Larry Sultan, and he was very influential. And he did a book called Pictures from Home, and I think that really made an impression on me, and is kind of where I started making the work about my grandmother and my family on that side. So I was born in Indiana. I have so many weird connections with things. I feel like it's almost unreal. But so yes, I'm Asian American, but I was born in Indiana. My parents were students at IU when I was born, and it this was in the 1970s, and so it was a time where there weren't a lot of Asian kids in my school.
Mm-hmm.
um, but my childhood, yeah, really kind of sits in the back of my mind at times. And so we moved to California in 1984, so I was 11 years old, and then from there I grew up in the Montebello area. um, but when I went to CCAC, which is now sadly a art school that's closing. I studied photography there, and I started to photograph my family. And so those Indiana photographs go back to 1998, and sort of shooting film at that time. So that postcard image that was originally shot on film, and I feel like it has a certain look to it, color wise, and just
Yeah.
has a quality to it,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which so nicely paired with the other artists in this grouping. Um, so yeah, so I've been shooting. I have tons of photographs, and at first I wasn't quite sure what I was investigating, because the photographs have a feeling of nostalgia and wonder, but also a sort of mystery and tension. And I think that really has to do with growing up as a person of color, in a place where there wasn't a lot of other people who looked like me. So I had a good childhood, but there is this kind of, I don't know, shadow there. And that's
Yeah.
what that work is.
And that's really what you're investigating. I mean, when we saw, there were several of your photos that we were just kind of like really stood out to us, especially because when I say us, I'm speaking about Jennifer Bewersey, my co-curator, and we had already had the film in mind, which is using found films that somebody found, this artist found in a Luke Thompson, not just this artist,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
found in a kind of in like thrift stores and stuff. So he's working with material that is like unrelated to his own family, but he's dealing with this idea of general nostalgia and how do we deal with all of these documents and things that we're just collecting over time. But then your stuff was so personal. I, of course, am not Asian American. I'm in fact Canadian, and I was completely pulled in by that nostalgic feel. So there is a definitely like universality of what you're describing and talking about. And maybe it's because we're a similar age. Maybe our grandmothers both like hung up all the clothes to dry in the laundry room. I don't know. But there's just something like really, really compelling about these images. And I feel like when you were mentioning the color of the film and stuff, it might be that actually. It might also be not so much the content of the photo, but in fact the sort of medium. Because there was another image that I'm thinking of where there was a staircase descending with carpeted,
Yeah.
and that like was just I could feel it, like I was standing there. And but of course I can't take that picture. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely your art involved in this. Um, and yeah, it's great that you've hit on that to sort of as part of your childhood to sort of mine for really this is really compelling work that I think I understand that it's very personal to you, but there's something about the fact that it's so personal that feels to me like it's really universal in a way. Or not universal, but you know what I'm saying? Like it also speaks to me as a person who does not share your history at
Well,
all. I mean,
I
yeah,
yeah, I love that. I mean, I it is such a specific place and way of being, but I am so glad that you could relate to it because I thought it was great that you and Jennifer chose that image in particular because there are a lot of images from that series, even the ones that I've posted on my website. I feel like that one is like kind of hidden in the mix of other ones. So I when I saw that you chose it, I was like, wow, they really looked at this stuff.
oh yeah, if you're looking for
Yeah.
any art nerds in the world, that is Jen and I. We will stalk people on the internet and go deep and really look at their work because we were interested in your message as an artist, and what you were saying about your work was really compelling and it fit well with the video. And so we were in fact trying to find sort of the exact match. So you were saying that sorry, not film, photography kind of happened after you had already started working as a not working, but being a visual artist with
Mhm.
paint. Is that what you were doing first? Was
Printmaking.
painting?
Yeah, it was.
Printmaking, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is a connection between photography and printmaking in that I feel strongly that those are two very democratic art forms. It's not really about making one, original thing but it's more about making multiples and then being able to disseminate those images to the public and they're accessible and so I like that history between both processes, printmaking and photography. Um, I mean, I could have gone with either, but I think that at the time I was being an Asian person, my parents were worried about money. I mean, probably everybody's parents were worried about that. And I just felt a little pressure. And I also really liked the technology of photography and that you could, you know, there's so many different things that you could do with that in a career. So I chose photography, but now that I'm a photography professor, I actually do more printmaking. So yeah, so it's a mix of things.
So when you're talking about financially, you mean like as a career or how
Yeah.
expensive it is to make the copies?
Well, no, I mean, no, as a career, because
Hmm.
with photography, you can shoot weddings, you can shoot for commercial purposes. I
Hmm.
just felt like at that age when I had to decide that, I felt like I didn't really know enough about the art world. Nobody in my family was an artist or anything like that. So I guess I chose a safe
Yeah, no,
path.
absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And
Yeah.
I think that that is a very classic immigrant story at the very least. And it's not just Asian American. People are definitely um if you're uprooting your life and putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation for a better life for your children, you're probably hoping they're not going to sort of have a career that doesn't lead to any kind of
Yeah.
income.
Yeah. And I think either one is a viable thing now.
Yeah.
Oh, but I think at the time I was nervous. But
Yeah.
both, I do both equally, I think.
Hmm.
But Wilderness of Childhood series, I've only shown that series as an exhibition print. But I'm starting to make books, small artist published books. Like I have one here just in case. Like I just recently created this
Wow.
book, and it's called Portals, and it's basically about portals, metaphysical portals.
Hmm.
So these are all kind of pictures of the desert and
Hmm.
this kind of metaphysical thing. So I'm starting to mess with books a lot, and I feel like that Wilderness of Childhood series that the Grandma's Basement image came from is yeah, I think it's necessary to produce some book. There's so many images going back so far in time. I think it's what my next project's gonna be.
Yeah, that was I was going to ask you about sort of where's your curiosity taking you? Because it feels like you've got this one side of what you're saying, which is like the sensible brain that's like, well, let's, pick a career path. And then there's
Yeah.
just sort of this curiosity. It's like, well, I wonder if I did this. I wonder if I did that. So with these books, first of all, it's a fantastic idea because that was what was so hard about choosing just one image from your collection was that the feeling that you get from seeing the whole collection or more of the images, even just on a website, um, it's just it's really evocative. It's really captivating, and it pulls you in, and it gives you I don't know emotional feelings. I guess what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
And so the idea of it having it as a book, that's great because then they're just always going to be viewed in that collection. But then of course books are easier to send out into the world than large scale prints on a wall.
Yeah.
So in terms of this book making thing that you're interested in, this kind of new avenue, are you working with a publisher or are you designing the whole thing yourself or what parts of it get you excited?
I'm just publishing everything myself. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
willing to work with a publisher, but at this point, I just have all these images that I feel I need to make something out of, communicate something, make something. It doesn't need to be like a narrative or something that firm, but I just need to kind of piece it together to create, an artwork. Um,
Hmm.
so it's my way of kind of that's the creative process, the editing process, and just kind of hashing things out. And so I'll make a book version, and then later I'll kind of rethink the images and want to put them in a different sequence, etc. So right now I'm just playing with that idea, and I'm also making little zines and things like that. So I don't know. It's just where I'm playing right now. It's playing with different papers and formats and yeah, seeing where that goes.
Well, it seems like this idea of something being replicable and sort of produced at scale. I mean, scale. I know that you're not sitting on box and boxes of books, but it feels like that's something that's kind of a thread throughout your work. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I tend to work in series and things like that. Um, for me, that is the fun part. I mean, creating, shooting is fun. But actually just making sense out of the collection of images, I guess it's kind of like editing a film or something,
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
it's that idea that you can kind of piece together some kind of loose collection of images and have the viewer like you like have some emotional reaction to it even though it's
Hmm.
not you know clear like journalism or documentary or something like that. It's more evocative. It's more coming from the imagination, association. Um, well, like Larry Sultan, who was my teacher I mentioned, he with Mike Mandel did this book called Evidence. It was one of the first art books that we looked at in class, and that book is basically a book comprised of disparate images that were produced for commercial purposes, and it's like factory workers pouring something and a bunch of men standing around looking at something, and basically it's the idea that you can create your own story out of these random images, and people will, their brain will want to, make a story out of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because we're always I find, obviously, I come from a, or not obviously, I come from a music background, and so I people are constantly trying to create these connections between sounds, and even if you just take a field recording of whatever, they're like, "Oh, that airplane just went perfectly with this violin note," and you're like, "Sure,"
Yeah.
but
It's kind of Dada, right? I mean, I
mhm,
love the Dada artists and their experimentation and play, and the idea of chance is really fun to
mhm,
me. So I like that, and I'm so glad that that stairway image that you mentioned earlier, those are the steps down into my grandmother's basement. And when I think back on my childhood memories about that house, that is part of that wilderness. Is like, I remember being small and going down these precarious weird steps, and it was so dark down there, and I never knew I was going to be down there. So it's the way your imagination plays with you, and something may not be there but you imagine it's there. So I'm glad that you got the vibe from that.
oh yeah, and even just the sort of tactile feel and the perspective that you got of it is how we as children experience stairs. You and I say in close
Yeah.
proximity because we're short, or sitting or sliding down like on your bum, kind of into the depths. I mean, I imagine that's how you were playing on those steps. So when you went, so you went back to take these photos, or did you find them through all your old archive of your personal work? Like, did you? Because you said you moved back to California. Did you then go back and visit and
Yeah.
capture the images?
Yeah, because my grandmother lived, she was alive until, let me see, about 2015. So I would photograph every time I went back. I would spend a lot of time photographing. I mean, it was also because there's not much to do there, to be honest. But I found it really refreshing to be in this environment that was kind of familiar but totally unfamiliar. And as I grew up, I guess I felt even a little more alienated from, I think it was also the politics of the way things were changing. And then I had my own children, and
Mhm.
I would bring them back with me, and they just, loved it. They're like, wow, grass, and a field to play in, and stuff like that. And so yeah, so I was continuously photographing, maybe on a yearly basis from 1998 until about 2015. And then when my grandmother died, those were some of the last pictures I did, because, and in that series is a picture of her funeral, and you could
Mhm.
put her in the casket and stuff like that. So I photographed that. And then 2016 happened, and Trump became president, and I decided that I feel good going there for a while.
Right, 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 right. So that's there's a natural end to that kind of
Hmm.
collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was and remains a complicated time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel like your art, like when you're looking at your childhood, do you feel like it's got this pre-California and then California kind of division, or was it more fluid than that?
Absolutely. Yeah, pre-California. Yeah, I really was a child and seeing the world a certain way. I'm very naive and um aware I was different living in Indiana, but at the same time, it was not that in the forefront of my mind. There were of course, there were little microaggression things that would come up and stuff like that that I definitely remember. But yeah, it was different. It was a different vibe. And then I came here to LA, and then the Olympics were happening. There was so much smog. And I was just like, whoa, what is this place? And soon after, I got really into punk music. And
Oh, cool.
then that was like a transformative moment. And so yeah, then my life was kind of like different from then on.
Right, right. And so are you doing like, is it this collection of the wilderness of childhood is like really like looking backwards? Are you looking forwards, or do you always kind of look back? Like, are you always in the process of processing what you went through before, or does it change depending on your curiosity?
I think that project is just specifically about a location and a psychological landscape,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
memory and a feeling of alienation, and yet that is a place I grew up as a young child, so familiar elements too. So there's some mystery. Um, and that's its own thing. And now looking forward at my photography, I mean, a lot of my bachelor's degree time and my time at graduate school at CalArts, I was doing photography about LA and the people I knew in LA and families and relationships, um, and the landscape. So I'm always kind of looking at my surroundings. But the Indiana work is its own thing about a time and a landscape. And then after that, I turned to LA and was kind of doing that for a long time. I was doing kind of like writing poetry that went with the images that I made. Um, and then I kind of, after that graduate school work, I took a break from photography for a little while and I focused on printmaking.
Mm.
And I've been doing prints through self-help graphics and places like that. And so there's always a feeling about looking at the landscape and trying to see what it's telling me about a place and the history of a place. Maybe that's the thread throughout my work that's the same as like I'm kind of looking at the idea of place.
Yeah, well, it also sounds like in your bio, because I obviously read that, you're talking about your connection to your community and working in nonprofits and stuff. And that's a big part of what I do. And I tend to downplay that because I feel like people can see me as less of an artist or something if I'm only doing work in service of others or elevating other artists' voices. But recently I've just given up and just been like, this is exactly who I am, and sorry.
Yeah.
Um, and it sounds like you are also like reflecting your community back to your community, and it's not like a love letter necessarily because there's some critique in there too, but there's also a kind of like celebrating what it is, or and just showing people what it is, and like allowing them to process who they are through that. um does that feel accurate, or am I just
Oh,
making stuff
no.
up?
I thought, wow, she's really perceptive. No, I think not right. I did want to point out too what you just said is very important because I think if you and I are similar in age, I mean, I feel like when I was a graduate student that there were artists that were kind of seen differently. Oh, you're a community artist, and oh, you're a gallery artist. What or
Yeah.
whatever that is. And I would have a hard time like figuring out what that was about, and nothing ever felt right to me because I'm kind of all of those things.
Hmm.
And I think the same thing goes with being a mother and an artist, because when I was younger and I was having my children, there weren't any other women that I knew that were in the arts that had kids. So I was very alone, and I was happy I was doing it, but I really felt like I was going in alone without any kind of a person to talk to about that was a female. And nowadays, I feel like the attitude has changed a lot. I don't feel any shame about being an artist mother. In fact, I celebrate the tenacity of women who are taking on their role as a parent and an artist and not even trying to hide it, because I think they did before. So same thing with community arts. There's something about caring about other people that was looked down upon before, but now people are recognizing like, no, that's the holistic thing. It's like you're an artist, you care about the world, you care about what's happening, you care about the people close to you. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like you're like kind of more integrated in terms of these different roles, and that is definitely something that I think younger generations are benefiting from. But I still hesitate to tell stories about my kids. You know what I mean? Like it's um it's tricky as a woman. It's different, and I often will sit there and listen to my composer friends
Mm.
talk about their children who are men, and not feel like it's seen the same way if I
Yeah.
share the same stories, and that could be, I could be wrong, right? Like I could be reading the situation wrong, but
I don't know. Trust your instinct.
yeah, that's where I'm at. But I
Yeah.
do appreciate the fact that you're just putting it out there in your bio. Like, this is exactly who I am, and this is a big part of who I am, and that's how I get my inspiration, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm up to. Yeah, I just really admire artists who can be that integrated and that kind of out there. And Jen and I, in our curating, we're always looking for different kinds of perspectives on things, and caregiving, is a tricky one for artists, because they're both so demanding on your time and your emotional bandwidth, and to do both in separation can be hard. So it's not, at least for me, I found that ever since I stopped trying to pretend I'm not the parent of three children, everything just kind of goes a
Yeah.
little more smoothly.
Yeah. I mean, that is that I think the more people like you who can talk about it, the better, because that is a good quality, that's very
Hmm.
important. I mean, I try to thin the line between my work as a professor and my work as an artist and myself as a parent and community artist. And the more I kind of blur those lines, the better I feel, but also the more honest I feel
Hmm.
about, if I'm teaching somebody, I should give them the truth about what it's like to be an artist. I should give them the truth about what kind of jobs they can do, etc. And I think I just feel better about everything if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but it comes across in your work, honestly, like
Yeah.
that is really, really legible. And yeah, I mean, it's subtle. It's not like, I mean, this photograph doesn't have like sequins and paint and things, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not yelling at me, but it just sucked me in like a vortex. And so, um, yeah, just found that really compelling. I'm so glad that you agreed to be a part of our series, because I want more people to know about your work, and we've been pointing them to your online website and stuff. But is there anywhere where they can find those books?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question. So I think I will be putting some of my books on my website, and people can reach out. Um, some of them are new, and I also made this what I call a zine, but my husband calls a book. It's called the Magic is in the Moment, and it's basically interviews with social practice artists. And
Oh, wow.
did it as part of my sabbatical as a professor, but people have been asking to buy it all the time, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, I should make it available. So I'm gonna post a couple videos of flipping through my books on Instagram, and people can reach out to me
Mhm.
and I may put them on my website, maybe.
Okay, that's great to know. Well, in the meantime, folks have a couple more weeks left to reach out to us and get your postcard mailed to their home, which is a delightful treat in the mail. And then they can pop over to the public library in a few months. We'll post about when they're available in the public libraries, and then you'll have maximum coverage
Thank you
for,
so much.
throughout LA County. We're trying to, we look at our map, and we're always trying to grow further and further out to reach more and more people where they're at. So our library program is a big part of our community outreach, and not even just outreach, but we just care deeply about these projects and these pairings, and we really want people to see the visual art and then to go on the QR code on the back and watch the video, and sort of think about how those um, themes intersect. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it, and hope to see you on the internet or in reality at some point soon. Thank you so much.